You have former Alabama players dominating the NFL Combine. Nick Saban still on his search for that new strength and conditioning coach. And folks, you have made it to the end of your work week. You know what time it is. Friday, TGIF edition of the hottest show on the streets. Best form of Alabama football news, notes, and information you will find anywhere. This right here, In My Own Words, the podcast with yours truly, Stephen Smith of Touchdown Alabama Magazine. But the show is more than me. I got my man, John Ivory. I call him JP, but John Ivory handling the ones and twos from behind the scenes. Definitely cannot do this show without him. And each and every time, as we're broadcasting to you from Tuscaloosa, Alabama, streaming this live, not just from YouTube, but also Facebook and Twitter, we encourage you to drop a thumbs up, give a like on the show, and hit that subscribe button. What that does for us here at TDA is to allow us to continue supplying you, providing you with the best in news, notes, and coverage on your favorite program, that being the Alabama Crimson Tide. It's because of you, the Tide football fan. We're over 8,000. That's right. Over 8,000 subscribers strong on YouTube. So definitely want to continue encouraging you to grow the network, the brand, and the channel. Got a jam-packed slate of topics to get into tonight. We'll start things off with a couple of updates, and from those updates, we'll look into what does Alabama need in terms of a new strength and conditioning coach moving on from Scott Cochran. Got a couple of guys being interviewed as we speak. Chris Dawson had an interview recently, the strength and conditioning coach from Kansas State, and it was reported, or I've been told, that David Ballou out of Indiana is at the program visiting and also interviewing with Coach Saban on the strength and conditioning job. So we'll touch on what does Alabama need in that area. Then from that, we'll look at the former Bama standouts, Jerry Jeudy, Henry Ruggs III, and one Jalen Hurts. All three dominated the Combine. We'll touch on all three of those performances. And then from there, we'll dive into one Scooby Carter, who is back in the transfer portal again. The redshirt freshman from Texas back in the transfer portal. What does this mean when you look at Alabama secondary? We'll go through all of that. And your phone calls, texts, tweets, thoughts, concerns on this edition of the show. But first and foremost, dive into some updates. People, as always, when you have a younger sibling, whether it's a younger brother, younger sister, you love your sibling, you appreciate them, you value them, but sometimes they like to pop off at the mouth, and you just got to put baby boy and baby girl in their place. Let them know who really run this thing. And in the sense of football, the Auburn Tigers, former Auburn defensive back Noah Igbinoghene. Noah Igbinoghene, one of multiple players representing both Alabama and Auburn at the NFL Scouting Combine this week. He spoke to reporters on Friday and basically said Auburn has become the best team in the state. He said he believes Auburn has come around to be the best team in the state, and coming up in the next few years, everybody will see it. He's stating how Auburn is going to be better than Alabama in recruiting and in just everything. And for me, looking at Igbinoghene's statement here, I get it. Auburn won the last 2 of 3 Iron Bowls. I understand that. They won in 2017. They won this past season. Alabama won in 2018. But let's not forget the 2 rivalry games that Auburn won. They both came at Jordan-Hare Stadium. I mean, they both came in Auburn. They both came in Lee County, the place where, Auburn gets all the calls at home. The referees give Auburn all the calls. So it's not like you're beating Alabama in Alabama. You won both of those games in Auburn, the place where, witchcraft and craziness goes down. It goes down at Jordan-Hare Stadium. But to make my point, folks, on his statement, Auburn's got to come to Tuscaloosa this season. Auburn's got to come to Bryant-Denny Stadium, which they rarely fare well in Bryant-Denny. They have not fared well in Bryant-Denny. And when you're facing an Alabama team that has not won or did not win a national championship in the last 2 years, when you're facing a Nick Saban that is making alterations on his coaching staff both on the field and off the field, when you're facing a Nick Saban that wants to continue to always be the best in college football, that's going to be a big deal right there. So looking forward to this year's edition of the Iron Bowl. But fans, we'll get to your thoughts. 205-448-1358. If you have a thought, comment, or concern of what Noah Igbenogby had to say, you will get your chance. 205-448-1358 on the other side of the break. But that's just that. Also, fans, set your calendars for March 13th. Friday, March 13th, the first day of spring practice for the Crimson Tide as the 2020 edition of this football team gets ready to take the field. So Friday, March 13th, first day of spring ball. But dive into the first topic of conversation, that being, what does Alabama need in a new strength coach? Parted ways with Scott Cochran. What does Alabama need in a new strength coach? Now, Aaron Feld, the head strength and conditioning coach at Oregon, visited with the program, did not interview, but visited. In terms of guys that I've actually interviewed, we look at Chris Dawson out of Kansas State, was one that interviewed. Dawson, 20-plus years of experience in strength and conditioning. He's entering his 11th season at Kansas State, has been there since 2000. So from 2000 to this upcoming 2020 season, been there for from 2010, to this upcoming 2020 season. Chris Dawson has been at Kansas State for quite some time, so he's got that experience. But not just Chris Dawson. It was reported, and I heard myself from close sources, that David Bonu of Indiana, not just visiting the campus, but also Bonu has had an interview, or is having an interview with Coach Saban. Bonu, who played college ball at Indiana from 1997 to 99 as a fullback. He was the strength champion for the Hoosiers. After his time as a player, he was a coach at Avalon High School in Indiana for 14 years as the strength and conditioning coach at Avalon from 2002 to 2014. During that time, we're looking at 6 state titles in multiple sports. He produced 80 Division I athletes during his time at Avalon High School. From there, he spent 2 years at IMG Academy, 2015 and 2016, as a strength and conditioning coach, the head guy. And when Bonu got to IMG, this was when the program really took off in terms of its speed training and its injury prevention training. He really took them to the next level in both of those two aspects. In 2017, Bonu went to Notre Dame as the co-director of its strength and conditioning program, helped the Fighting Irish have a 10-3 season in 2017, conditioned the likes of running back Josh Adams to have a 1,000-yard season, 206 carries, 1,430 yards rushing, 9 touchdowns. He put 2 offensive linemen in the top 10 of a 2018 NFL draft, that being offensive guard Quentin Nelson at pick number 6 and offensive lineman Mike McGlinchey at pick number 9, the offensive tackle. Both of those guys win top 10 first round of the 2018 NFL draft. And on top of that, that 2017 offensive line for the Notre Dame Fighting Irish with David Bonu won the Joe Moore Award for the best offensive line in college football. So a very good resume that Bonu has. And he has spent the last 2 seasons with the Indiana Hoosiers, including last season, 8-5 record, its best record since 1993. So a good resume in terms of David Bonu, a good resume in terms of Chris Dawson, both guys being interviewed, or Dawson has already interviewed. Bonu was interviewed today as Nick Saban trying to find who will be the replacement for Scott Cochran as the director of strength and conditioning, head strength and conditioning coach. Cochran at Georgia now with Kirby Smart. But just for me, when I kind of look at the aspects that I look at in what does Alabama need in a strength and conditioning coach, first and foremost, I like a young guy. I like a young name, somebody that can bring fresh energy, fresh enthusiasm, a fresh perspective, just a young face, somebody that you can really kind of relate to. That'll be number one. The number two thing I would look for in a new strength and conditioning coach is somebody of whom they have a philosophy. It's a strong philosophy. It's a great plan. They are firm in that plan. They are solid in that plan. They have developed that plan. They have confidence in it. But like I mentioned before, they're not afraid to be flexible. They're not afraid to alter some things, to change some things, to mix some things around for the betterment of the program, for the betterment of the players, and things of that nature. And then also a guy that can relate to the players, because you're dealing with young men of different backgrounds, different walks of life, different socio-economical looks. You're dealing with a whole bunch of guys here, and you can't coach every player the same. Sometimes you got to be tender with the guy. Sometimes you got to be rough on a guy. Sometimes you need to be more tactical with somebody. Some guys you have to get in on them because they need that structure. You're dealing with some men, some young players that come from a background where you have mom and dad at home. You're dealing with some players that come from a background that don't have mom and dad at home. They're raised by uncle, they're raised by auntie, big cousin, they're raised by grandma and granddad. So when you're dealing with this spectrum, you got to have a guy that can reach each athlete. You got to have a guy that can reach each player and that has the means to tutor or to mentor or to develop each guy in a different way. And then last but not least, Alabama's got to have a guy that can mesh well with Jeff Allen, the head athletic trainer, and Amy Bragg, the head nutritionist. In terms of Jeff Allen, we know what he does. He is on the cutting edge of technology. He's looking at the data, he's observing the analytics, and he's finding different ways to manipulate that to make it even better. He's tracking the performance, he's tracking the effort, he's tracking all the things from behind the scenes that makes Alabama football special. And if you can have a head strength and conditioning coach that can get with Jeff Allen, that can match the analytics together, that can match the performances together, that can match the effort together, that's really, really, really huge. And then if you can get somebody that can also mesh well with Miss Amy Bragg, who does an unbelievable job of making sure the young men here at the University of Alabama, they're eating clean, they're eating healthy, she's prepping the meals, she's counting the carbs, she's counting the calories, she's making sure when these players eat, that food is converted to fuel. And when the guys come in, one of the first people they meet with is Miss Amy, Miss Bragg. What's on the menu today? How can I eat better? How can I do better? How can I make sure my body, Miss Bragg, is in top tier peak physical performance? I'd be a lean, mean killing machine, and she's putting them in a situation to be successful in terms of the meal plan. So if you can get somebody that can mesh well with the brainchild of Jeff Allen and the nutritionist that is Amy Bragg, you are in a very, very good spot. But there are a number of different guys that Nick Saban will try to interview, will try to bring in. The two guys right now, Chris Dawson of Kansas State's been interviewed, and also David Ballou of the Indiana Hoosiers has been interviewed. And it's critical that Saban gets the guy quickly, just due to March 13th. As I mentioned, Friday, March 13th, set your calendars, folks, the first day of spring practice, the first day of spring ball, and you would like to have a strength coach in before you kick off practice. Now, of course, they've got some assistants right now working with the players. Tyler Owens, one of the assistants. Josh Chapman, one of the assistants. So it's not like nobody is working with the players. You've got some guys that are going through that fourth quarter program with those guys, and they know the videos and the tendencies that Coach Cochran had prior to him leaving. But it's highly important that before you go into spring ball, before you transition into, getting Alabama back on the field and sort of unveiling the 2020 version of this Crimson Tide team, you want to have a head strength and conditioning coach in place and be able to get the the ball rolling from there. So me, young guy would be good, a guy that has a plan, formulates that plan, confident in that plan, and a guy that can mesh well with Jeff Allen and Amy Bragg would be good for Steven. But we're going to go to our first break here on In My Own Words, the podcast. Don't touch that dial. When we get back, we dive into your phone calls, thoughts, questions, and concerns after this.
Every sports fan deserves the proper representation. Whitwell Sports introduces to you the Title Towel. Wave that Title Towel in the air like you just don't care in support of Nick Saban and the Alabama Crimson Tide. Only $9.99 and it lasts a lifetime. Head on over to whitwellsports.com and get your Title Towel today. Touchdown Alabama Magazine is Alabama football's premier publication. A subscription to Touchdown Alabama Magazine is the perfect gift for any Alabama fan. For exclusive news and information, recruiting updates, a free annual print magazine, and more, go to touchdownalabama.com and click join. Only $5.95 per month or pay $49.95 for a full year subscription. That's a saving of almost $22. Make sure to subscribe before it's too late and get our new freshly printed end of the year magazine issue. Go to touchdownalabama.com today and roll Tide.
Thank you for watching Touchdown Alabama Magazine's YouTube channel. To continue to get the best in Alabama football content, subscribe here and turn on your notifications to stay connected with the hottest shows covering your Crimson Tide.